Eat big to get big. Maybe you were told that once before, but that approach can quickly lead to a very sloppy offseason that's going to require a really big fat loss phase on the back end. You don't need to get sloppy to grow muscle. The athletes that I work with that make the best progress stay in what I call the responsive zone, where calories go towards muscle instead of going to fat. I'm Jewett, IFBB Pro, an educator with J3 University. Today we're talking about how to maximize muscle gain and limit unnecessary body fat, and why many misunderstand what a surplus should really look like. Let's start with the real reason why people get fat. The issue in the offseason with people getting fat is inconsistency hides progress. You can't manage what you can't track. Meal timing goes all over the place. Sleep is inconsistent. Steps, cardio, it happens some days it does happen. And all this leads to the scale jumping all over the place. Then you can't tell if you're actually growing or you're not, if recovery is great or it's not. And then you'll start making more changes on top of already variables changing all over the place. The inconsistency allows extra calories to go in or output to be lowering. And your calorie equation can quickly turn into much bigger of a surplus than you really intended it to be, which quickly adding a lot of body fat occurs. And with poor recovery also comes less partitioning of those calories towards muscle and more towards fat. So we want to do the things that keeps us dialed in for recovery, getting the most from our training and allocating those calories towards muscle and not body fat. So the what to do? Well, number one, consistency makes the calories work. When nutrition, sleep, and training are consistent, it makes the scale make sense. You can make meaningful decisions off the consistency of the data that you're tracking. Through consistency, you'll be at the weekly rate of gain that I usually recommend of 0.25 to 0.5% per week. If you're on it and nailing it, you'll be able to see that happen week after week. If not, you're going to have weeks where that overshoots or weeks where it undershoots and you end up adding food too reactively. Then the following week, you get more locked in and the jumps even higher. It's so key to be consistent in all the variables that you're doing every single day, just like it's Groundhog's Day. The best bodybuilders are the ones that can thrive in monotony, and their prep looks a lot like their off-season. Now, I did mention a weekly rate of gain, and here's the point number two, is that a surplus should happen. And there is some surplus debate in the research world around how much do you really need, or if you even really need a surplus at all. In the Helms 2023 paper, a 5% surplus fully maximized muscle gain compared to a larger surplus. The larger surplus only caused more fat gain. However, the biceps did respond a bit more to the larger surplus. And partly we have to look at that paper and realize that the biceps got a lot more training stimulus. So the key here is that training is a real key driver to partition the surplus towards muscle gain. So if you have inadequate training, this could be a reason why you're having just more fat gain and not as much muscle gain. So that's one takeaway from the paper. However, there's also another takeaway is that you don't need an excessive amount of surplus, because that just leads to more fat gain. Just putting in more food doesn't mean it's going to turn more to muscle. Training is still the main driver here. Now, the real world application from the literature that we've seen is that a slight surplus is advantageous, especially for those that are busy individuals or have variable schedules, as if you're running only a 50 or 100 calorie daily surplus, you might have days where you could easily burn that off, or whole weeks where you might be spending several weeks in a deficit in the off season and not fully optimizing fueling training and recovery. So I don't recommend eating at maintenance calories. If you don't have timeline based goals like competitive bodybuilding, maybe that's an application that you could go through. But we see in the literature, as nutrition is reduced or you're in a higher output state as well, that you are sacrificing your ability to adapt from training, which if you're not adapting as much from your training stimulus, you're not going to grow as much. So to fully maximize training, I do think a slight surplus should happen, and still stand behind the recommendation of a 0.25 to 0.5% weekly rate gain. Go on the lower end if you're more advanced or you see yourself getting a little bit fat. Go on the higher end if you're newer and you're also visually not seeing yourself get fat week to week. Next, one thing to partition well towards muscle is optimize your sleep. It's a complete sleeper of an anabolic. Like what I did there? Sleep dictates where the calories go. Poor sleep shifts calories towards fat gain, meaning less is going to be building muscle because of inadequate recovery, causing less training adaptations to occur from your stimulus. When sleep is consistent, you recover from training, more is partitioned towards muscle. You also will better maintain your health metrics too in the off season, staying more insulin sensitive. So aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night, quality sleep where you wake up feeling rested. Next, make sure you're making smart food choices. This isn't the time to bring in a bunch of junk food or high fat food options or cheat meals. Selecting foods that digest very well will keep food moving and keep appetite up. One of the biggest limiting factors I run into, guys, is them having a stall out in appetite and simply not being able to continue to eat the amount of food it takes to grow. A lot of this goes back to the inconsistency, but consistent meal times makes a big difference, but so does picking foods that digest well. And don't be the bodybuilder that only eats the chicken and rice. Have 3 to 4 different food sources for each macro. Eat 3 to 4 different types of fruits every day, and even 5 to 10 different types of veggies every day. Make sure that you're getting 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories, up to usually 40 to 50 grams total of fiber per the day. Beyond that is usually when it might lead to more bloating, and no improvements beyond that for digestive purposes. Next, cardio changes the game. Cardio in the off season is not some metabolic trickery to partition towards muscle and just lose body fat and recomp. The goal of it in the off season is to maintain health metrics, improve your work capacity, also aid digestion and appetite. This all keeps you healthier so you can handle the food volume it takes to grow. So for my current off season, I go 5 days a week in the morning and do 20 minutes on the elliptical. And even though I am burning calories, even for the little bit more food I need to put in because of that, my digestion is still so much better with doing some cardio, and my resting heart rate's lower. I'm staying more fit. My lab work looks much better. You don't want to run into a bottleneck in your off season where health metrics are poor, or your work capacity has gone down, or resting heart rate starting to drive up really high. Cardio sustains your off season for longer. And the last thing I want to leave you with is phase your growth. Progress will come in waves, not never-ending bulks. I recommend doing a push phase 16 to 20 weeks long. 20 weeks regardless is usually my cutoff, because I'll typically have seen a lot of guys stall out after that, whether it be through appetite or getting beat up from high volume amounts for long periods of time. So then we move to a hold phase, 4 to 8 weeks long, to pull back on training, food, and PDs, all mainly to reset them for another long push phase to come. Now, that might be also a fat loss phase to get back to a baseline where they have some room to keep building up for the off season, but it might not be. It might just more so be to correct any issues that popped up while they're towards the end of their push phase, whether it be in health metrics or maybe it be an appetite. We resolve the issue and hold the tissue. The best off seasons aren't sloppy. They're measurable, predictable, and performance driven. Stay in your responsive zone. Train hard, recover deeply, and have enough surplus to keep body weight scaling up.